Today, we're talking about knowledge and tools to navigate Florida's updated condominium laws, advise clients accurately, and ensure compliance with all sales, disclosure, and review requirements. This was brought to a forefront again because Chris is doing another condo right now, and we said, hey, let's make sure we've got all this covered carefully. Florida's updated condo laws, these were in effect as of July 1st, so just recent, but through beyond, of course, through current. Essential for us to know these things, and the purpose of legislation roots in a Surfside collapse, that condo building that collapsed, right? So we need to make sure that buyers and sellers understand these things. How do we do that? We go through the consumer protections and sales procedures. This gets thick, but the way I did it was I also broke it down to things that we can point at. But the document review period, form updates, cancellation rights, these are what we're into. So there's an extended document review period, right? 7 days, and excluding weekends and holidays. But we need to know these things. If anybody doesn't have these, ask. I can share all of these things. Of course, these are from Florida Realtors website, which is great. Updated form requirements. We need to make sure that we have these also in our app files. I believe they've updated them automatically last time I looked, and but they're required. They have to be there. Seller's right to cancel clause. They've got 7 days for no reason other than they just have the right to cancel. It is what it is. And that is, of course, the time period when they could be reviewing the governing docs. This is after receiving them. We want to make sure they get those governing docs right out of the starting gates to start that 7-day clock immediately. None of us are trying to rush a buyer or seller, but neither do we want to give them additional time than we have to. So these forms are required. So if you look at it more clearly, the 7-day review period, buyers now get 7 business days up from 3. Used to just be 3. But the condo documents are declaration of condominium, articles of incorporation, bylaws and rules, financial reports, structural reports. This is very important. Time starts once the buyer receives the full set of required documents. And I threw the be sure's in there. Be sure to create a checklist of required documents, confirm receipt with a timestamp, email, form, something that makes it clear that the countdown started. All right. Automatic right to cancel. Same thing. 7 days. They may cancel without penalty. It's non-waivable, even if it's a contract that's as is, all cash. They still have 7 days. Be sure to inform buyers clearly of this right. Consider scripting it into your consultation. Once you've received the condo docs, you'll have 7 days to review them, or you can cancel for any reason during that time. Just a simple script, but it works. New mandatory forms. These are the ones that we need to make sure that we use. Always use the 2025 version. Old forms will leave you and your clients out of compliance. We do not want to be out of compliance. That's when our E&O does not like to take care of us if we're using things that we're not supposed to. So, residential contract for sale and purchase. This is the crisp one. The condominium rider is the one we'll most likely use. I haven't even looked at this, the COOP 4. So more things for us to really look through and read carefully. And it's important to read every one of these, guys. Every addendum that you use, every contract that you get, read the whole thing. There are some scammers out there now that are adding an extra section into the body of the contracts that makes it appear as though it's part of the original contract, but it's like section F, and gives them the right to withdraw and or without your permission drop the asking price by 50%, and it's acceptable to the buyer or to the seller. And once you sign that, you've accepted it. It's in writing. It would be a hard one to fight. So we want to make sure we keep those things, and we review every contract that we're working on and or that we receive from another agent. Be careful. Safety reserve funding, association flexibilities. This all goes back to the SIRS thing, which is structural integrity reserve studies. We need to make sure that we provide these and that we are provided these from the buildings or from the associations. So, and that's with any building that has 3 or more habitable stories, formerly 3 stories or more. Now it's 3 stories and up, okay? Reserve funding flexibility. We pause reserve funding for up to 2 years following a milestone inspection. The SIRS, right? Use lines of credit for loans. We need to make sure that we know the reserves. Where are they? Do they have loans out there? Do they have the certificate of deposit showing where the funds are and that they're deposited without a vote? These are important things. Are they allowed to invest them? Shift from straight line to pool and reserve accounts. And this was all by this law firm that we checked out, and you search the Gulf, but it's available. Okay, these are important things again to consider. We need to know the reserves. Safety inspection laws. This is back down to the same thing again. These don't directly affect a sales contract, right? But they can influence your buyer's decisions. Safety inspection laws apply to buildings that are 3 stories and up, not just 3 stories or not above 3 stories. Milestone inspections, that's the visual and detailed structural. Do it 30 and 40 years. If we see condos that are out there that age, we need to make sure even more than ever that those are in place. SIRS reports must cover the roof, structural, fire, plumbing, electrical. These are things that as realtors, we should know. We should know to look for these, and those should all be on our checklist of what to do. Be sure to ask agents, the listing agents, for the latest inspections reports, right? And you need your buyer to look for these and look through all the red flags and any major upcoming assessments that may come through these. And that has slowed a lot of condo sales because of these things. We need to make sure they're in place. Reserve funding flexibility. That's the association side, of course. Boards can now delay funding after a milestone 2-year inspection, and that's fine. Take loans to meet reserve needs. I hate that idea, but they're allowed to. Shift to pooled reserves. So be sure to. This means monthly fees might spike in the future. If there's a special assessment on the horizon, you need to ask. Be sure to ask. Transparency, oversight, and governance. This is everything they're trying to do with our real estate these days, is everything has to be entirely transparent as it always was, but boy, are they making it more clear than ever. And sometimes they're muddling the waters because they're trying to make it so clear. But board meetings, minutes online, they should be available, and you need to be able to provide those to a prospective buyer. How about the DBPer? They're the oversight in charge of these things now. Property manager licensing. We better make sure that they do have licensed folks in charge of their board, or they can be terminated, revoked, suspended. We don't want to have any of those issues happen with one of our buyers getting into a condo. Board education, here is the education requirements. This is all laid out here as well. Mandatory board member training now. This didn't used to have mandatory to be on the board. They have to complete 4 hours. Surely they can do 4 hours. But some people, I question that. Anyway, online presence for associations. This is important. 25 units or more, I must establish a website. Do they have a website? These are just things that we should be looking at and asking. And they're not going to come to us automatically if we're not doing condominiums every day, if we're doing single family homes. So we need to make sure that we look at these things and that we have a tight checklist in our hands. Term limits, these are all things where people can get the boot too, okay? So there's 8 consecutive years for a board member now. Put years and boards together, it's yours. Anyway, this is starting in 2026, but that's just around the corner. Required disclosures. Even before July, buyer's contracts had to include whether there was milestone inspections completed, the SIRS status was reported, and whether developers turned over the condominium to, or the board to the association or not. So be sure to ask listing agents for these disclosures early. If they don't provide them, you may have to request them in writing. Ask for them and then request it in writing anyway. You know, just a follow-up email. This is what we discussed. Looking forward to you getting those to me. It's important things to do. Implementation timelines. This is a highlight of effective dates. And this is current January 21st, contract disclosures, milestone turnover, SIRS. July 1st again, main law provisions kicked in. December 31st, SIRS deadline. January 1st, websites and term limits of next year. This is when everything's going into effect and when it's and what's already in effect, okay? So, key highlights to think about. Buyer protection, 7-day review, new forms, cancellation right. Safety and reserves, extended SIRS deadline, targeted inspections, reserve funding flexibility. And again, in this section, we need to look and see if they're taking loans to have full reserve fundings. That can come back to bite a buyer. Transparency, online board minutes, financial reports, official websites. These are all things that add to their transparency. Oversight and governance. Obtain or updated I can't talk today. Updated beeper powers. Uh, Manager licensing, board member training, term limits. These timelines again are what we just covered, okay? Best practices. This is something that we need to make sure that we have in our app files for that matter. Best practices for buyer's agents on condominiums. Document checklists for buyers. Declaration of condominium, articles of incorporation, bylaws and rules, 12 months of meeting minutes. A lot of associations have a hard time providing 12 months. Current financials. That's hugely important. The SIRS report, the milestone inspections. This is all if completed, but they should be completed by now because of the new timelines, right? So be sure to use this as a buyer's side checklist before starting the 7-day clock. Before you get in contract, guys, get the all of these documents in place so that the clock starts ticking. And and it's because the buyer then will have everything they need to make a good decision. If we only provide them part of it, we're not doing our job. Let's make sure we get what they need, and the listing agent has to do their part as well. So everybody works together to have the best practices. So, talking points for buyers. Simple. We now have more time, 7 business days, to review the condominium documents carefully. Used to be 3 days, now it's 7. You have a right to cancel without losing your deposit during that window. Buyers need to know that. They have time to review these things. It's a thick book. That's okay. We can go ahead and get you in contract. You have 7 days. These reports give insight into how well the building is maintained and how likely future assessments are. That part's really important. How likely is it that we're going to have future assessments? Hey, there's a crack in the foundation. Boy, we've seen that bite a lot of people. So we need to watch for them. We are in Florida. We're built on sand, even though these condominium pilings should be driven down to the stone. So anyway, be sure to discuss this with your buyers and sellers, guys. So, tried to do this as quick as I could to get everybody moving this morning, but this was interesting. I should have given somebody credit for this. I don't know who put it out there, but I saw it on Facebook and I loved it. Every morning a gazelle wakes up knowing it must run faster than the lion or it will die. Every morning a lion wakes up knowing it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve. It doesn't matter if you're the lion or the gazelle. When the sun comes up, you'd better be running. Life doesn't reward those who sit idle. Whether you're chasing a dream or fighting to survive, motion is non-negotiable. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting for permission. The sun's up. Start running. Have a blessed day. Thanks, guys.